Derived nouns in English grammar. Derived nouns are formed by adding a suffix to a base word. A suffix means adding something after the word. For example, you add ness to happy to make happiness or ment to employ to make employment. The new word becomes the name of a person, thing, quality, action, or state. Most often, derived nouns are made by adding suffixes such as ness, ment, er, ity, and ship. Before visiting individual suffixes, let's know why happiness is a noun or employment is a noun. Do you do happiness? Do you be happiness? No. You have happiness. You give happiness to someone. Someone is in a state of happiness. What is happy? Happy is an adjective. You are a happy person. This describes what type of person you are. You are happy. This describes your state. Those were happy days. It describes the state of those days. So, in every instance, happy is an adjective. But when you add ness, it becomes a derived noun. You derive a noun out of an adjective. What about employ? Employ is a verb. You employ someone. A company employs 200 workers. You won't have a job unless someone employs you. But if you add ment, employ becomes employment, which is a noun because you have an employment. You give employment to someone. Therefore, if you have something or if you give something to someone, it is a noun. You give happiness to people. You give employment to people. So both happiness and employment are nouns. Now I'm going to list some common and uncommon suffixes you can use to turn adjectives, verbs, and even nouns into derived nouns. Here we go. Ness. You usually add it to an adjective to make it a derived noun. Happy becomes happiness, kind becomes kindness, dark becomes darkness, weak becomes weakness, and sad becomes sadness. Then we come to tion or sion. Normally you add these to a verb to make a derived noun. Educate becomes education, act becomes action, discuss becomes discussion, decide becomes decision, and expand becomes expansion. Then we have ment. This you add to a verb to make it into a derived noun. Employ becomes employment, develop becomes development, move becomes movement, improve becomes improvement, achieve becomes achievement. Then we have er or or. Here also you usually add it to a verb. Teach becomes teacher, drive becomes driver, act becomes actor, visit becomes visitor, and sail becomes sailor. Then we have ity. Ity you usually add to adjective to make a derived noun. Active becomes activity, equal becomes equality, pure becomes purity, able becomes ability, and real becomes reality. Then you add ship to a noun, to a normal noun to make it into a derived noun. So, friend becomes friendship, leader becomes leadership, owner becomes ownership, scholar becomes scholarship, and partner becomes partnership. Here are some other common suffixes that you can use to make derived nouns. For example, hood. Child becomes childhood, brother becomes brotherhood, mother becomes motherhood, neighbor becomes neighborhood, and adult becomes adulthood. Then you can also add dom, like king becomes kingdom, free becomes freedom, wise becomes wisdom, star becomes stardom, and official becomes officialdom. After that, we come to ance, ance or ence. Here, attend becomes attendance, resist becomes resistance, exist becomes existence, differ becomes difference, and important becomes importance. You can also add age to convert words into derived nouns like marry becomes marriage, store becomes storage, waste becomes wastage, cover becomes coverage, and post becomes postage. You can also add ism to words to get derived nouns like capital becomes capitalism, social becomes socialism, national becomes nationalism, hero becomes heroism, and real becomes realism. Here are some less common suffixes to make derived nouns. Th. Growth becomes growth, deep becomes depth, wide becomes width, long becomes length, and strong becomes strength. Similarly, you can also add cy. Private becomes privacy, accuracy becomes accuracy, accurate becomes accuracy, efficient becomes efficiency, fluent becomes fluency, and frequent becomes frequency. With al, arrive becomes arrival, refuse becomes refusal, approve becomes approval, dismiss becomes dismissal, and propose becomes proposal. And if you add ure, fail becomes failure, press becomes pressure, depart becomes departure, expose becomes exposure, and mix becomes mixture. You can also add double ee. Employee becomes employee, train becomes trainee, interview becomes interviewee, nominate becomes nominee, and pay becomes payee. You can also add ess. Normally it is used to convert the sex or gender of a noun. For example, actor becomes actress, host becomes hostess, lion becomes lioness, prince becomes princess, and steward becomes stewardess. Modern English often avoids ess for jobs and titles these days. Then you have ster. Here, gang becomes gangster, trick becomes trickster, young becomes youngster, team becomes teamster, and song becomes songster. You can also add let to create shorter versions of a noun. For example, book becomes booklet, leaf becomes leaflet, pig becomes piglet, stream becomes streamlet, and ring becomes ringlet. You also add ling to represent a small person or a small animal, like duck becomes duckling, earth becomes earthling, under becomes underling, found becomes founding, and ear becomes earling. Then you can add ry or ery, like brave becomes bravery, slave becomes slavery, rob becomes robbery, bake becomes bakery, and brew becomes brewery. ETT is added to some nouns to create shorter forms of those nouns. For example, kitchen becomes kitchenette. This is a very small kitchen. Cigar becomes cigarette. Drum becomes drumette. Novel becomes novelette. And disc becomes diskette. You can also add ACY as a suffix to make derived nouns. Pirate becomes piracy. Delicate becomes delicacy. Private becomes privacy. Accurate becomes accuracy, and supreme becomes supremacy. Then you can also add a suffix like ICIAN. Music becomes musician, politics becomes politician, magic becomes magician, technique becomes technician, and diet becomes dietitian. So in this video, I have given you a comprehensive list of derived nouns that can be made out of adjectives, verbs, and nouns. If you have found the video useful, please like it, subscribe to my channel, or click the bell icon so that you get a notification when I upload my next video.